BBC Essex.
We are talking downsizing. Have you done that? Would you like to do that? How have you found your experiences around it? 0800 111 4041. And this new report which says actually you should be exempt from stamp duty if you're downsizing, with the aim of sort of freeing up some larger homes to help families out when it comes to housing demand and housing need. That's the suggestion. Do you think that would work? You can get in touch on WhatsApp or text if you'd prefer to message, or give us a ring. And Sally Mitchell joins me now. Sally is a senior mortgage broker in Dunmow, calls herself the mortgage mum. Good morning to you, Sally.
Good morning.
Morning. What do you think of this then? Do you think it would have an impact on housing need?
Yeah, I think it really would. And it wouldn't just help housing need. It would also potentially free up the bank of mum and dad to help those first-time buyers get on the ladder. Because we focus so much on people not being able to set off on, in the housing market. And we forget that there's this, whole other end of the spectrum. 28% of our population are at pensionable age. That's a massive swathe. And it does feel a little bit mean to charge people who've, paid into the system, paid their taxes, worked really hard for probably the best part of 45 years, to sort of whack them with a charge, a tax, when they choose to, or need to, more likely, actually move to a smaller or less burdensome property. And if they can do that, a lot of the time they want to do that to actually free up some money to gift to their children to help them. So it's sort of a win-win. It's a cycle, a lovely, lovely circle.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the impact it might have for younger people trying to get on the property ladder. That's really interesting.
Yes, it could work.
Yeah. Do you think it would encourage people then, if you don't have to pay stamp duty, guys, give it a go? You think it would have the impact of encouraging more people to consider it?
I think it would. I mean, we see a lot of gifting, a lot of gifted deposits from parents and family members. And they can only do that normally because they have either built up savings or they've got equity in their property. They sometimes use their properties as guarantees to help their children get on the ladder. So if there was an incentive or not a de-incentive, I mean, if you sold your house for £500,000, for example, if you bought a house for £500,000 for stamp duty, if you're not a first-time buyer, which obviously these older people are not, then you could be facing a stamp duty tax bill of £12,500. That's an awful lot of money. That's a lot of help. And also, if you save that £12,500, think of the sort of amendments or improvements you could make to your new property to make it fit for living out your next 15, 20, 30 years, whatever your retirement time. It could ease the burden on society. It could make you safer in your own home. And also perhaps move the slightly older generation into more social situations, property that's fit for purpose, for their needs. Isolation and loneliness is one of the biggest issues with our aging members of the population. And if you're stuck in your house with no one else living in it, and it's big and it's burdensome and it's stressful, that's not going to make your retirement any more fun.
And have we got enough of the right property that older people might want to downsize to? Because on the one hand, you sort of think, right, we're freeing up the bigger house, so the families are, able to move into that. But that right accommodation that you mentioned there, have we got enough of that?
No. And that is what it's such a big issue that there isn't enough. And it's not what is there is not necessarily the best options and not particularly attractive for a lot of people. I've looked at the Dutch model very carefully, and that's fascinating, where they purpose build retirement communities where there's social interaction, there's support, there's care on site when you need it, but also they mix in intergenerational living. So you get younger people living in the same environment and communities as older people, which again really seems to alleviate those feelings of loneliness and disconnection to society. It's such a big subject and such a big topic that it sort of opens up It's the ramifications are huge. But with 28% of our population over state retirement age, it's something we really need to look into. And I think that area of society is forgotten. It's not counted as much as perhaps other sectors.
And as you mentioned there, examples in other countries of doing things a little bit creatively and differently.
Yeah.
With some really good outcomes for all different generations, isn't it? That sounds like a really different approach, but quite a good approach for a number of different age groups, that, doesn't it?
Quite radical, but I think the way we're doing things at the moment, it doesn't really work, doesn't really suit many people at all. And of course, the more you can get people independently living, so suiting their housing to their needs, then the less burden on the NHS, the less burden on social care. It's a win-win. I think it's a fascinating subject, as you can tell.
Yeah, no, I thought that because as well, I mean, you've got this sort of financial incentive by scrapping stamp duty potentially. This report's talking about that, but I suppose as well the other challenges are you've got the emotional connections. Because I thought Bernadette, who we were talking to earlier, she'd downsized, but it had been her home for 43 years, so it's quite hard to leave some of that behind, thinking practically about size, but also you're leaving behind a home that you've spent decades of your life, aren't you? And that's quite difficult.
Oh, it's so difficult. It's so upsetting. And sometimes, people just think, I can't cope with it. It's too emotional. I think Bernadette mentioned that her husband had died there, all those decades of family memories. And, that's hard enough, especially, the physical aspect of having to move house is awful if you're 25, not 65. And to have to deal with that as well, and then get hammered for £12,500. We give help to first-time buyers. Maybe there should be a sort of reverse, that if you're a last-time buyer, you get the same sort of consideration that a first-time buyer does. So let's say your first £425,000 of purchase is 0 rated. That's what we do for first-time buyers.
Yeah, it's really,
so maybe
interesting.
we could do that for last-time buyers.
Yeah, I like that. Sally, thank you for coming on. That's senior mortgage broker in Dunmow, mortgage mum, Sally Mitchell on BBC Essex. Some of your thoughts around this, maybe your experiences if you've already downsized or you're looking to right now. 0800 111 40 41. Should there be a bit of financial relief when it comes to last time buyers?